I'm Liz Van Vliet. Welcome to Being Indispensable, the podcast for executive and personal assistants. If, like me, you want to become indispensable to your manager, then this is the place where you'll get the tips and techniques and industry insights that will help you achieve exactly that. Welcome to what I'm really hoping will be a regular podcast episode that I will have up on being indispensable. I've decided, as you'll hear from the following recording, I had this great idea that I would use my portable microphone and I would do some recording in the car on my way home from work. So although I've thought about various names, I've decided to call it Road Ramblings. Road Ramblings. Sounds all right? Hope you enjoy it and let me know if you think this is a good idea or not. Hopefully the audio quality is okay. It's basically me in the car on my way home from work talking about something that's happened either that day or during the week, where something's either gone really well or something's gone really badly. And in the case of this particular episode, it's something that's gone well. It wasn't a disaster. I'd probably describe it as a bit of a debacle. So I've decided that I might make a regular podcast, and I'm just thinking about what I'm going to call it. And I was thinking it could be called Reflections on the Way Home, or Musings on My Day, or, I don't know, what about, I don't know, I might think up some new topics. So if you're listening and you suddenly think, that's not what this actually ended up being called, you're actually seeing the way my brain works, that it's a bit of a thought process, and I might decide to call this something different. But the net of it is that I think I will do this weekly thing, or I'll have a regular podcast where I'm using my microphone that is my portable microphone so that I can record audio while I'm on my drive home from work. And not to make it too boring, but I'm very lucky because I work in a really nice office, and I have very available on-street parking. So I don't pay parking. So I justify the fact that I don't pay parking by the fact that I go through a toll road to get the quickest way home. Anyway, it's nice and it's usually pretty good, relaxing, not too busy. Anyway, so today I thought I would tell you, apologies for the huge noise because I'm in a tunnel. Today I thought I would reflect on something that's happened today, which has actually been going on for a couple of days, where so my boss is in New Zealand. He's gone over there on a trip with a client, and basically this is one of those traps for young players.
Caution, traffic disruption ahead.
There you go, traffic disruption ahead. So what happened was that the client wanted him to go with them on this trip. I liaised with the client's EA to organise the travel and accommodation, and it's one of those times where it shows the problem when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, because on Tuesday when he was travelling, he headed off to the airport early and spent the day in the lounge getting work done. So I spoke to him throughout the day. And then I didn't speak to him again until he'd gotten off. I spoke to him just before his flight. And then I spoke to him when he arrived in New Zealand, where he tells me that he's not just flown economy, but flown economy in a seat where he doesn't have any meal service, and he couldn't even get a drink of water on the flight. So picture this, my boss, who normally travels, well, he doesn't travel business class. Oh, God, that's annoying. He doesn't travel business class between Sydney and Melbourne because that's a very short flight. But anything longer than... Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Anything longer than a few hours in Australia, that pretty much is Sydney to Perth, for example, I would book him business class. And certainly on international flights, he travels business. Anyway, so when I'm booking his travel, I always book a fare that is flexible to enable us to change arrangements. And, as anyone who does this all the time would know, you can book a flight and then, literally you need to change it. It happens all the time because their schedule changes, something comes up, they can't go on that day. Anyway, blah, blah. Bottom line, I never book anything other than a flexible flight. Okay, so I may have to rethink doing this podcast until I get off the express road. But here you go, I'm going to leave it in because it'll make you all hopefully see that I'm very normal and my life is a comedy of errors. Okay, but this is getting ridiculous. And now it's officially gone beyond ridiculous, and it's gone to the... Okay, so just cue... Oh, yes, I get it. All right, and thankfully I'm actually exiting off that road so you won't have to hear that lovely recorded voice. Anyway, so he's very good-natured, and we have this text conversation about the fact that he's travelled economy, and not only that, he hasn't been able to get any meal service, not even a glass of water, and the flight steward apparently gave him a withering stare when he had the temerity to ask her for a glass of water. Anyway, I nearly had a fit. I could not believe that I had not covered this off. So just so that you don't think I'm completely incompetent, this was a case of the first time that I've ever had travel organised by someone other than me for him, and because I had had communication with the other EA and I had clearly conveyed the way he normally flies, the fact that he's his frequent flyer membership, the fact that he normally flies business if it's over X number of hours, particularly internationally, that, New Zealand is quite a long way from Australia relative in terms of flight times. It's like flying to Perth, and that, he would be travelling. The expectation was, I thought, that she understood we were after business class. So in actual fact, prior to him travelling, we were having a conversation about him not wanting to make the other people travelling from the company feel awkward if they weren't travelling business class. So both of us had looked at the flight details and not absorbed the fact that it wasn't a business class flight. I particularly, had seen the flight details come through and had just assumed that, oh yes, as we discussed, this will be business class. I did not go back and check. So there's the trap for young players and EAs that don't know what the hell they're doing, namely moi, that you've got to check these things. Anyhow, he was very good-natured about it. We joked about the fact that he, had needed to get his sackcloth out, which is a reference to looking like a poor person. I refer to travelling in economy as travelling with the great unwashed, which I hope no one minds, but that's just a joke that I have within my family, because I don't travel anything but economy, but I'd call it travelling with the great unwashed. Anyway, so today, I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to organise his return flight to get him upgraded so that we don't have this happening on the return flight, because it became pretty clear once I actually did look at the flight booking that the code was the same for both the outward journey and the return journey, and so he was going to be travelling meal-less, drinkless on the way back as well. Okay, so I gave the airline a call and discovered that because he was on a discount fare, so to make the indignity even worse, he was actually travelling on a discount fare. Oh my goodness, I don't know how much worse this could have gotten. Anyway, I spoke to the airline. They said because he was on a discount fare, what I needed to do was go through the corporate travel agent, get the flight upgraded to a flexi fare, and then they could do something about using his points to upgrade him to business class. And so then I did give, that took a little while because, I needed to get onto the corporate travel people that this company was using, did it, paid for the flight upgrade or the fare upgrade to flexi. We can always claim that back later from the client. And then I waited the required amount of time before it had processed through the airline system and called back and organised the change to from the economy seat to a business seat. Oh my goodness, breathing a huge sigh of relief. There were 4, fare, seats available that could be used, upgrade seats to use points to upgrade. Thankfully, in the time it took me to get it all sorted, they hadn't all gone. And so I've now organised his return flight in business. So not only will he get beverages and some sort of sustenance of the food variety, but he'll also get a nice, comfy business class seat. And I emailed him to that effect to let him know. And I can't wait to see his response. So I've told him that, he better shave and look somewhat, less cattle class than he looked the other day, and my sincerest apologies. So there you go. Example of how you make assumptions, and I think you have to go through it so that you actually can have the little red flag now permanently etched in your mind not to assume again. So as I said, even though I really did think that I had communicated our expectations, and that if that was not to be the case, could she please let me know? And then I didn't hear anything, but clearly I should have followed up when the ticket was organised to say, just clarifying, can you please clarify what class we're actually booked in and what sort of fare this is? Anyway, there you go. Trap for young player. Don't make that mistake that I've made, and I'll report back on whether my boss's good humour continued, which I can pretty much guarantee it will, and hopefully that's the end of it. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Being Indispensable. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Why don't you subscribe so that you get episodes automatically? And I'd love it if you could leave a review. Head on over to my website, beingindispensable.com, for the show notes.